Knowing what I know now about government contracting and looking back, how would I start a brand new government contracting business from scratch? Well, I think that's a really good question to ask and one I'm dedicated to answering right now in today's video. So I've actually broken down what my approach would be to tackling this into 10 steps to make it easier for you guys to follow. But before we get into that, into those steps, there's just a few points I need to clarify before we get into it. So the first step is, who is this video targeted for? This video is for anybody in the community following along, watching the videos that doesn't have a business or doesn't have a set of skills that they could feel that they could turn into a business. This is for somebody who really has a blank slate, but they're still wanting to do this. This business is for you. And for everybody else who has a business, don't worry about it. You're still going to get some takeaways from this video. It's just the way you would approach the first couple steps I'm going to list would be different for you since you already have something established. The second point here is a bit of a caveat. I kind of just touched on it as well. But, basically, guys, plug yourself into this scenario and these 10 steps that I'm going to talk about. If you have a particular set of skills that you can use to build a business, do that. Don't just follow blindly what I'm telling you. So, use your brain when I'm giving you these steps. And then lastly, the last point is a bit of a legal disclaimer. Okay, I'm not giving you necessarily business advice, telling you what you should do. I'm just making a recommendation of what I would do, again, starting over, knowing what I know now to start a government contracting business from scratch. So let's go ahead and get into the 10 steps. How would I approach doing this? Okay, so the first step I'm going to do in this is I'm going to identify what type of business I want, and then I'm going to get that business set up. So for me, I don't feel like I have a particular set of skills or niche, skills or certifications or anything like that would have me go into a certain type of business. So for me, the type of business that I would choose is professional administrative staffing. This is something that gives you some leeway to grow into, but it's a great low barrier to get into in terms of a business model that we know we're going to need for government contracting. So like I said earlier, if you have a different type of business that you want to go for, or that you can do or you know how to do, then you should do that instead. And then once I decide on this, I'm going to get this business set up. So that means I'm going to incorporate in my state, and I'm also going to get a TIN or EIN number from irs.gov to get this business set up. That also means I'm going to establish a business banking account that goes along with that. And what I would do is put 10 to 15K in that bank account as a cushion. Guys, when you win your first government contract, you have to front the money and then invoice out and be reimbursed. So if you don't have a bit of a nest egg to put aside, I would stop here and build that first and then move forward with the next steps. And then lastly, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get an address. I'm going to establish where my working office is going to be. And since I don't have any income, I'm going to use my house. I'm going to use my residence, and I'm going to choose a bedroom with a door with an office where I could actually use that as an office in case anybody had questions about it. Guys, they usually say if it has a door on it, you're able to basically separate it out from the rest of the house. Okay, so next, once I have my business set up, then I'm going to get my team set up. So what does that mean? That does not mean going out and hiring employees because I don't have any income at this point to do that. So what that means is I'm going to find an accountant that's going to be a match and be able to support me in the type of business that I want to do. And I'm also going to find a payroll company and get that lined up for once I'm ready to need that for, honoring government contracts and paying and staffing these employees. So you could have your accountant, be one and the same if they can provide payroll services, or you could separate it out into two different services. Some people, charge more, some accountants charge more versus using something maybe like Gusto where you can still get all your taxes paid through it and things like that. Do your research. Again, talk to your accountant. But my team to get started is going to be an accountant and a payroll relationship. And then once I have this, I'm going to figure out my numbers. So kind of step 3 here is figuring out my numbers. I'm going to have a dialed in pricing formula. So I'm going to know what my expenses are going to be. I'm going to be able to factor in, any payroll cost, also my employer costs that I have to contribute for staffing. So when I'm asked to price out a staffing contract for professional services, I know how to account for all of those costs like FICA, FUTA, SUTA, Social Security, Medicare, all that good stuff that you have to pay into as an employer. Figure all those numbers out and then also figure out what profit you want so that in step 3 you walk away with a pricing formula that covers all of your expenses and also factors in, your profit and any overhead and general administrative expenses that are also going to be there to, incur the cost of the contract. So once I have a legitimate business and I'm registered and I have a team that I feel good about and I have some numbers, then what I'm going to do is start with low-hanging fruit to get a little bit of business. So it means I'm going to play in the commercial space. So I'm going to say, hey, do I know anybody who owns a business? What does my, Rolodex look like? I'm going to go on LinkedIn. I'm going to scroll through. You got to find some low-hanging fruit where you can basically have a temp position at least, or maybe a permanent position where they have, some needs that you could staff and provide people and manage those people, get them going through your payroll, all those things that you would do as a professional employer organization. Or maybe they even have employees that they could put on your payroll and run through your company to get you the experience of doing that, guys. This is what's known as building your commercial past performance, and that's going to come in really handy once you start bidding on government contracts. So this is a way of starting with low-hanging fruit. This is what I would do. I would tap my contacts, on the shoulder and say, hey, I'm getting a business started. I need to build a bit of experience up. Can we do something like this? And I would recommend, not trying to make a whole lot of money. Maybe just do it for cost or a small little margin to cover, the expenses of operating the payroll and all that stuff so that you don't take a loss. But don't try and make a bunch of money here. This is getting you established with experience, and then you're going to leverage this on bidding in the future. So after I do this for a number of months and I'm feeling solid, guys, don't skip these steps, then I'm going to go ahead and get my GovCon game plan together. This is step number 5. We're only now getting to this. So what I would do is I would go to USA Spending and I would find the top 3 to 5 agencies that are buying professional and administrative services. And I'm going to use the subsector NAICS code beginning with 561, then it'll go blank, blank, blank. So if you just search by 561 in the advanced search in USA Spending by that particular NAICS code umbrella, then it's going to pull up, a whole lot of spending, a whole lot of agencies. I would be selecting the top 3 to 5 agencies that are buying the most of this type of service. And then I'm going to add them to a little bit of my business plan, a little bit of my GovCon game plan. Then I'm also going to geographically look around and say, hey, within my state, within my city, is there any federal agencies around that I would be able to visit on a regular basis and market to and build relationships to? Even if they're not doing the most spend, you have a unique advantage to be able to get in front of them in person. So I would also consider this into my game plan by getting started with this. So now, guys, once I do all of that, then I'm going to go to sam.gov, and then I'm going to submit my application and register my business. In order to do that, I'm going to take the NAICS codes that I identified in the previous step, add those to my sam.gov profile since you have to. So that's why we do that step beforehand. So remember, most people kind of get started with this step and they're doing it all backwards. We did all these steps to build up and be prepared, even get a little bit of experience and do some research first. And this is all bare minimum stuff. You can do more than this to get to this point if you want, but this is bare minimum stuff. And now only at this step am I going to go ahead and submit my sam.gov application and get registered and approved, receive my cage code and all that good stuff. So now I can start going after government contracts. So since the sam.gov application process can take a few weeks, I'm going to use this downtime to be proactive, and I'm going to establish my business tools and my government contracting tools. So this is a good time to complete your dynamic small business search profile. This is the thing, the SBA profile. You click on the last page before clicking submit on your sam.gov application. If you missed it, don't worry about it. You can go back into your entity, update it, click through all the pages until you get to the last page, and you'll see SBA profile, a little gray box or a gray circle. Click on that. That's how you access this. I'll go ahead and get that set up. That's what I would do. Then I would also use this time to obtain my capability statement, get this good to go. If I'm going to have a website, get that up and going. You don't have to get started, but it's it's a pretty good thing in 2021 and beyond to have something like that in the 21st century. Website, just kind of goes with par, I would say. In addition to, business cards, if you're going to get a business phone number, Google Voice, anything like that, get all of these, marketing, business, and government contracting tools into place and set up while you're waiting for your sam.gov application to process, so that once it's finished, you get your cage code and you already have your DUNS number. I kind of roll that into the sam.gov application process. You have to get your DUNS number to apply on SAM, so make sure you go to dnb.com and get that as well. But I'm going to use this time so that once I get all that information, I get approved, then I can hit the ground running with the real government contracting work. So once I get my approval, I got my cage code, and I'm ready to hit the ground running, I'm going to, again, pull up those agencies that we identified in the earlier step, the top 3 to 5 agencies, plus any agencies that I identified as low-hanging fruit. And I'm going to start responding to everything that is coming out of them that is going to be a match for me. And of course, that is a match for those agencies. I'm not looking at other agencies. I'm not being random. I'm not going all over the place, because all these efforts, if you do them at the same place and for the same people in contracting and, the agency small business liaisons, it's going to build repetition, and you're going to develop a relationship, and you're going to start to go deep, versus if you're constantly going wide and just chasing everything that looks good in the title, you're not going to actually, make any headway really. And if you win something, it's just going to be kind of because you're getting lucky. So again, what I'm doing is I'm chasing everything that's coming out in this focused, strategic way. This means responding to sources sought, and this also means responding to solicitations, RFPs, and RFQs that are a match for these professional and administrative type services, staffing services that my business offers. Okay, so once I am active and I'm bidding, I've got that on lock and I'm being consistent, I've got searches set up, all that good stuff, then I'm also going to implement marketing. Marketing consists of a few things. So number one, I'm going to be reaching out to all of the small business offices, the OSDBOs at those target agencies that's selected. Again, that's why you can't skip that step. Otherwise, you can't do any of these other steps. So whether it's 3 or 4 or 5 agencies you've selected, I'm picking up the phone, I'm sending emails, I'm getting in front of them. They need to know Derek's business. They need to know Derek provides professional administrative services. Okay, and then ask questions and let them ask questions of you. Bring intelligent questions, become prepared, and be ready to conduct what's called a capability briefing. That's what you would be doing with these OSDBOs and small business liaisons at your target agencies. So that's one way to market. Another way to market is to kind of do the same thing, but do it with a contracting officer. So open up a solicitation that might be a match for you, scroll down to the bottom, take the contracting officer's name and request a capability briefing with the CO or a contracting specialist. Send them your capability statement. Again, they may be open, some of them may not, some of them may push you back to the OSDBO or the small business liaison. Just roll with whatever they say, but I would be basically putting down the names, phone numbers, and emails of everybody at my agencies and those specific contracting offices, even more so that when I see their names on sam.gov, I know who this person is, and I'm following up with this person, month after month with intelligent questions. I'm not bugging them. And again, guys, I go into a lot of details on how to do this in GovCon Gold Rush. It's kind of hard to do it in a short video, but I'm marketing to the OSDBOs, I'm marketing to contracting officers like I just mentioned. And then lastly, what I'm doing is I'm attending any local free conferences that those key agencies are having. I'm not going out and flying halfway across the country. I'm not spending a lot of money. I'm not spending, getting a bunch of hotels, but anything that's local and free that makes sense that you can get in front of people, I'm also doing that to market my business. So once I'm adequately implementing marketing and bidding constantly throughout the year, different weightings, again, we talk about it in GovCon Gold Rush. Once I've got all that under my belt, then I'm adding this last cherry on top, which is conducting proposal debriefs. So this is a little bit of marketing and bidding that comes into play. So let me explain what I mean by this proposal debrief. Every bid that you respond to, whether it's an RFP or an RFQ, if you were not the winning bidder or the winning proposal, whatever, then you should request a proposal debrief. The contracting officer, if they're willing, will go over your response for 10, 15, 20 minutes to talk about any inadequacies that were maybe in your response. They may even tell you how close you were. They're usually not going to, give a whole lot of pricing information, but they might give you you were third or fourth or something like that without being too specific. This is going to allow you really, really essential feedback to hone in and build on your response strategy. So if they told you hey, your pricing was great, but your staffing approach, your management plan was weak, then you can go and build up on that. Or if they said, hey, your pricing was way off, then you can learn that, hey, there was something that you're factoring in or that you weren't factoring in that really messed with your pricing. So if you're constantly doing this, this means that your bidding strategy and your approach is getting better and better. And then also, if you're doing this proposal debrief, you're kind of getting a one-on-one with a contracting officer or two. When you're doing this, this is kind of a way of passive, marketing with them, because they're getting to, see that you're serious about this. And then if you do another one of these and another one of these, because you're being focused at your top 3 to 5 agencies, they're going to start seeing you again and again. And tell me if you do that for 6 months, a year, 18 months, that over time, they're not going to be like, man, so-and-so, Derek is killing this. Derek is doing everything that he can to check all the boxes and to earn our business. Tell me eventually, between that marketing component from this last step and building up your responses, making them better and better from this feedback, tell me you're not going to win a contract. Tell me eventually you're not going to win a contract and be successful. It's almost impossible. It's not a if it's going to work, it's a when it's going to work. And really the main factor is the amount of time and effort you're willing to put into this whole thing. So guys, that's what I would do, knowing what I know now about government contracting. If I was starting a government contracting business from scratch, I hope it was helpful. I hope maybe it shined a light on a few things, whether you already have a business or you don't. This is intended to be for all audiences. Obviously take any things to customize that you need to make this fit for your business model. But all these steps really, really do work. And this is something that I would do if I was starting over again, knowing what I know now. So if you like today's video, guys, click that like button. If you're not subscribed yet, consider subscribing, because government contracting is all that we do. It's the fourth quarter. Keep grinding before you bounce. If you want additional training, consider checking out this video or this video. Take care, be blessed, guys, and I will see you in the next video.